Well, the start of NBA free agency is 10 days away, and that means more drama for one Kyrie Irving. The Nets and Kyrie have reached a stalemate regarding his future there in Brooklyn. And of course, that opens the doors for teams to try to get Kyrie on their team, including the Lakers and the Knicks. Taking a look at notable contract situations when it comes to the Nets, because you have their quote-unquote big three, but not really.
Are we really considering that?
I don't know if you can. They've never even actually hit the court together. So it's going to be a big question what happens with the Nets this upcoming season. Kyrie did tweet out a little GIF. Producer Jack and I were going back and to land on what we call it, a GIF or GIF?
Just call it a GIF.
I think it's a GIF.
I know, just call it a GIF.
Anyway, so that's what Kyrie tweeted, which makes us think that all of this is going one in particular direction. Let's bring in Bill Reiter here. Bill, you and I were on set together. We were talking on air together on Friday, and you said your biggest question when it came to the Nets this offseason was Kyrie and his contract, and sure enough, here we are. What can you tell us?
Well, obviously the drama surrounding Kyrie Irving continues. This is it's Kyrie mode. The report out of The Athletic reflects what a lot of folks around the NBA had suspected might be possible. The Brooklyn Nets do not want to give him a max deal, a 5-year, nearly $250 million deal that he's eligible for. And that means that Kyrie Irving, unable reportedly to be able to find common ground with the Nets on what the contract would look like, maybe testing free agency. He can opt out of that deal, really not opt into his final year, or he can opt into that final year in the $47 million range and look for a trade or a sign-and trade. But the possibility Kyrie will not be with the Brooklyn Nets seems markedly higher now than it did a couple days ago.
If they could come to some sort of agreement, if the money and the time and all that could be right for him, I mean, do you think he wants to stay there, though?
It is dangerous territory to try and guess what Kyrie Irving is thinking from one moment to the next. He's friends with Kevin Durant. That's a real thing. He has said that he wants to be a Brooklyn Net. We know that. He also said he wanted to stay with the Boston Celtics before he left. It's really hard to get my arms around. Just talking to sources, even people in that organization, even people that have been in the past close to Kyrie Irving aren't sure what he's after. But I think, yes, if he got a whole bunch of money, if he got a max deal, it sounds like he'd want to stick around. But Sean Marks, who runs basketball operations, was very clear several weeks ago when he came out to the press, and in a very, I think, pointed statement to Kyrie Irving in talking about Kyrie, said, we want people who are present. We want people who are good in the locker room. We want people who show up for work. We want people who are good teammates. This is a real problem for both these, I think, Kyrie and the Nets, because they need each other. I'm not sure, Amanda, they desperately want each other.
Okay, so you see there at the bottom, Lakers and Knicks, potential suitors there for Kyrie Irving. I mean, which one of those do you think is more realistic, or is there a very realistic team, in your opinion, out there where he could be playing next season?
Well, I think this is the real problem, and I think this is probably why the Brooklyn Nets are able to play a little bit of hardball, and as I understand it, maybe offer more in a 3-year range deal with a little bit of a discount on what the max number would be, because none of those teams have an easy path, Amanda, to bringing in Kyrie Irving. Let's start with the Los Angeles Lakers. Sure, they'd like Kyrie. I'd like to be 6'3". There's probably not a path forward to either of those things happening, and it comes back to the same conversation we've had again and again and again. You have to move on from Russell Westbrook to be able to create the cap space you'd need to sign Kyrie Irving. So before whether it's a good idea or not, there's just not a realistic way for the Lakers to move on from Russell Westbrook, and they'd have to attach picks and trades and various things to get Russell Westbrook out of there. They don't have a lot to offer, but whatever they'd offer would leave them bereft of other assets to go and try to do some kind of a sign and trade with the Nets. Hard to see that happen. The Knicks have a similar problem. They don't have the cap space. They'd have to move on a whole bunch of people in order to move on some of those bigger contracts. Again, they'd probably have to attach the very same assets that I assume the Nets would want in a sign and trade return. So whether it's those teams or the Clippers, who also reportedly Kyrie Irving might be interested in, there's just not a very easy or realistic path forward if, as we presume, Kyrie wants to get paid what he thinks he's worth.
Bill, I've never met you in person. You could have told me you were 6'3", and I'd believe you all day.
You've never met Bill in person?
I've never met Bill in person,
What
no.
in the world?
This thing called a pandemic happened, Christopher.
Yes, huh?
Bill Reiter, thank you so much for joining us here on HQ to talk about the latest regarding Kyrie, which, of course, will continue on through the next weeks and months. Take a look at the odds to win the NBA title, repeat as the Warriors at the top, and then the Nets right now with Kyrie on the team. We'll see where they go. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.